He says he's the prime suspect in his own wife's murder. But is he? Should he be? Sergio Barraza, we're going to look at his words in this video from Never a Truer Word, where we look at the words that people choose to use. And in this case, we're going to look at the words of Sergio Barraza. It's a case that's interested me for a long time. Sergio is the guy on the right here, and to the left is his wife, Liz Barraza. Liz was murdered 4 years ago, shot down brutally on the drive of the house that she shared with Sergio. And hey, Sergio's the husband. He becomes the prime suspect in a lot of people's view. I spent a lot of time looking at some of Sergio's early interviews after the murder, and I concluded that really he wasn't involved. He had no guilty knowledge. He wasn't being deceptive. This was a guy who had lost his wife, and really could not make sense of why that had happened as well. But he's now given a new interview. It's 4 years on from the murder. It happened in January 2019. So to mark that event, he gave a new interview to a TV channel in Houston where they live, or where he lives, and where he lived with Liz. And I spent a lot of this week, a lot of work analyzing some of the answers he gave in this interview. The full interview I've linked in the description. It's about 30 minutes long. So I've pulled out some of the most interesting answers here to analyze the words that Sergio uses in there and see if 4 years on I can spot anything else that he says that changes my opinion that he had nothing to do with this. And let me tell you, spoiler alert, it does change things. So I'm going to look at the words that he uses. Get involved yourself if you want. You can get involved in the comments, just any observations or questions or that you have in the words that you spot from Sergio here as well. We're going to be looking at what I call truthful deception from Sergio. And in this case, if he was guilty or had some guilty knowledge of this murder, we'd be looking for tells of that in the words and sentences and phrases that he used. That could be misdirections away from what it is the interviewer wants to talk about towards things that he's more comfortable talking about. It could be softening of what happened. This was a brutal murder. There's security footage of it that exists, and it's horrible to watch. Maybe even we'll find in his language him excusing what happened or something like that. That would be the sort of thing that would say to me, there's more to this than meets the eye. That in his words, I think he is a bit more involved than he wants to let us know. However, having said that, we may also just see straightforward answers to questions, directly answering the questions that's asked, and not trying to persuade or convince us of anything else that's going on, and conclude that Sergio is being completely honest here. So let's go for it. And the first question that's asked in this interview is, the interview says, 4 years on, how are you doing? And Sergio says, as good as I can, it's a process to get through all of this, to remember this, to live through all this, that I never imagined going through something like this. So I take every day a step at a time. It's insane that it's been 4 years, and there's still nothing. It just doesn't make sense why this even happened. First thing I see here is that Sergio does answer the question. It's the first question he's asked, and it's a really easy one. There's going to be no need to lie around this. 4 years later, how are you doing? He can give an honest answer to this, and he gives a very fast, direct, honest answer. He says, as good as I can, and then he adds more words in. I don't spot any deception in all these words, but I don't spot anything in all these words either. You don't learn very much from them, do you? It's just almost words for words' sake. Certainly, he's not storytelling. He's not trying to build an image of anything, but he is being guarded and cautious in his words here, I think. You also might spot that, I think, a couple of cliches here when he talks about it being a process. He talks about taking one step at a time. I think a lot of this is words for words' sake. He's fine, but he's guarded. He's not maybe into the interview yet. Maybe he doesn't trust the interviewer as well. I do see a repeat of the pattern that I saw in the last video that Sergio did, which is why she was killed, why his wife was killed is more important than who killed her. And you'll see there that he says, it's insane. It's been 4 years and there's still nothing. It doesn't make sense why this ever even happened. So he's hung up on the why the murder happened. He's never hung up in his words on who did it, on who was the person involved. It's always the why that interests Sergio. I also spot in this answer a little bit of downplaying. He doesn't talk about a murder or a brutal slaying or anything like that. He talks about this. He talks about getting through this. Doesn't make sense why this even happened. And that's downplaying a little bit, I think, the fact that Liz was murdered. That's something we might see in someone who is guilty of a crime. Someone who's guilty of stealing money may say that the person that we're looking for took the money rather than stole the money. I'm not saying this makes Sergio guilty. It's an interesting point. I've noted it. He's playing it down. Hasn't mentioned Liz by name either at this point. Couple more things. He seems to start a lot of thoughts and then stop them, and he does this all the way through the interview. So you can see there, he says that I never imagined going through something like this. And he's going to say so every something, but he stops and he starts a new thought and says, I take every day a step at a time. And he does a lot of this all the way through the interview. So what's next from Sergio then? Well, he is asked by the interviewer, how has this changed you as a person? And Sergio says, it has made me really live in fear. Just because they haven't found anyone. They haven't. There's nobody put away for this. And I don't know if it's over, So every day I'm walking outside and making sure I'm safe. Amber's safe. Amber is Sergio's new partner, by the way, just to set the context there. Amber's safe because I don't know if they're going to come back, if they still want to hurt me or want to hurt our family, It doesn't make sense. So I rather be safe and keep us protected. So I'm just very cautious always. Now, I've got some things that interest me here in Sergio's words. Prior, I said that he's really not interested in the who did it. He's interested in why it happened. And look at how he refers here at the beginning of this to the person that he wants to see in jail or brought to justice for murdering his wife. And he doesn't actually say he wants that person in jail. He just says they haven't found anyone. They haven't found the murderer. They haven't found the person that killed Liz. They haven't they haven't found the person that did this. It's just they haven't found anyone. And then there's nobody put away for this. There's nobody put away for this. Again, it's not the murderer hasn't been put away. The person that killed my wife hasn't been put away. It's just there's nobody been put away for this. Why does he use those words? I'm really interested in that. He calls the killer they several times. And I said in the previous video, I think that Sergio has an idea who the killer is, which is why he's focusing on the whys and it doesn't make sense. And so I think he thinks the killer's female. And again, all the way through this interview, he doesn't give the killer a gender ever. We may naturally assume it's a man just because that's where the odds are and what the chances are. But Sergio doesn't, and Sergio always refers to the killer as they. Now let's talk about what is worrying him here. He said that he's changed because he lives in fear. Well, he doesn't seem to be worried in the house. It is when he's walking outside. I'm interested in why he's only scared when he's walking outside rather than just being outside in general, or away at work or anything like that. But every day when he's walking outside, he has to make sure he's safe. And then he says, because I don't know if they still want to hurt me. Why those words? That infers, because they still want to hurt me, or they could still want to hurt me, that they wanted to hurt him at the time that Liz was killed, that he was the target or a target or intended to be a victim of this killing, and now he thinks they still want to hurt me. Really interesting, because he says the murder doesn't make sense and that he has all these why did this happen, but all of a sudden he seems to have some sense around it, and that they wanted to hurt him or the family, and they still could want to hurt him and the family. Something else I'll see all the way through this, and you'll see it as well. Although Sergio says he wants to know why and he wants the events of the murder 4 years ago to make sense, He, in his words, and directly in his words, he only ever considers that the killer was known to him and Liz. He never ever considers that this could be a random attack or a mistaken identity. He always talks in his words that the killer is known to him and Liz. And why is he wording it that way? The interviewer asks him, "Can you think of anyone that would want Liz dead?" And Sergio's reply is, "Honestly, no. It doesn't make sense why anybody would want to hurt her. It's just there's no reason why, and she's an angel to me. She's just pure good, you know? She never hurt a fly. She never was mean to people. We were always the type of couple who took the high ground and never argued or tried to cause a fight or anything like that. We were just kept to ourselves in our nerdy little lives and had fun together. I can't imagine why someone would hurt her." The first word that Sergio uses there is honestly, and I'm never a fan of someone using a phrase like honestly, or saying to be honest with you, or anything like that. Why the need to flag honesty now? Are they implying that they haven't been honest before? Or actually, should we be reading the honestly flag that comes there as, there may be a bit of deception coming here, and they're so insecure in their deception that they're going to try and work really hard to make sure we believe them by saying, "I'm going to be honest here." And then talk about not answering the question. I gave him credit for answering the first question, but he is asked, "Can you think of anyone, that's a person, that would want Liz dead?" And then he goes and talks about how it wouldn't make sense that anyone would want to hurt her. So he's asked about anyone, and he goes again to talk about reasons. Sergio says that they were the type of couple who always took the high ground. So while he's painting this Mary Poppins story of a couple that kept out of trouble, I can see in the words that there was some trouble, and it's natural. Very few of us will get through life and get along with everyone. But to take the high ground, you must have to make a decision to take the high ground at some point. There must be something that comes along in your life where you could take the low road or you have to take the high ground. And that is an argument, or that is a falling out with someone, or that is someone disagreeing with you, or even someone treating you badly that you decide to take the high ground with. But for all he's painting this picture of their nerdy lives where they just got on with everyone and kept themselves to themselves, nah. For you to say you were the couple that took the high ground, then something was going on in your life that you're not telling us about where you had to take that high ground. Also, he says we never tried to cause a fight or anything like that. That is different from not having fights. Just because you didn't try to cause fights, number one, doesn't mean you didn't cause fights accidentally or in an unthinking sort of way. You just didn't try to start the fights. But I think, again, in his words here, this couple were in fights with some other people in their lives. It's not clear from there who that was. I think we'll see some more later. But he wants to portray him and Liz as having this idyllic life, this picture postcard life, and I don't think it was like that. I really don't think it was like that. The interviewer asks him, "Do you think this case, it's a case that can be solved?" And Sergio says, "I want it to be. I don't know how they're going to do it. I just hope that they do it. I haven't lost hope. I want somebody to be punished for this. Honestly, for the murder of Liz. It's insane that somebody's still out there and Liz is not here. You know, it just doesn't make any sense at all. Why they haven't found them? You know." Well, first of all, I did mention at the beginning that we got this downplaying. He didn't mention the murder. He didn't mention Liz. Well, he has done that here. If you notice, he has talked about the murder of Liz. So I'm kind of reinsured there again. But he's just talking about why this doesn't make sense. He says it's insane that somebody's still out there. Previously he said it was insane that it's been 4 years. So I think he has had a crazy time, because he said insane that it was over 4 years, or it's 4 years since the murder. Here he's saying it's insane that somebody's still out there. So I think he's had a crazy time over those years. The repetition of insane around that 4 year period. Wanting punishment is good. Wanting somebody to be punished is good. You rarely see the secretly, deceptively guilty people pretending to be innocent, speaking about wanting to see punishment for the crime that they've committed, but are not being honest with. So that is good to see in his words there. But again, it's that he's wanting somebody to be punished for this, not the person who did it, just somebody, almost as if anyone got punished for it, just whether they had anything to do with it or not, he would be happy. That's what he's saying in his words, that somebody needs to be punished for this, not just the person who did it, somebody. And I find that very interesting. It's come up time and time and time again. He doesn't say that he wants the murderer punished. He just says he wants somebody punished. And he goes on about wanting it to make sense again. Let's talk about murdering someone on their driveway with a gun. It will never make sense. It is not a rational or sensible thing for anyone to do. There may be a reason behind the murder. There may be a reason why it happened that you can understand: anger, hatred, jealousy, to keep someone quiet. Even like for some murderers, it's a perverted thrill to kill someone. So we can understand or know there is a reason behind it. But murder should never make sense. It's not a sensible thing to do. It's not a sensible way to deal with those problems like anger or jealousy or anything like that. So Sergio wants it to make sense. As I've said, he has indicated that he thinks the murderer, or knows the murderer, is someone known to him, or someone known to him and Liz, or someone known to Liz. And I think when he says he wants it to make sense, it's like, and we know we pissed that woman in our Star Wars club off because she didn't get to dress as Darth Vader for the hospital visit. But why murder Liz because of that? That's really what it feels like here. The interviewer says to him, "Take us back to that day. What do you remember?" And Sergio says, "I remember getting the trigger on my phone, the alarm system, and it's just being like, what's going on? This is weird." Because we had just kind of talked about it, and I told her, "Hey, if something happens, open the door and I'll immediately know. So it caught me off guard. That morning we were getting all set up for work. I got my phone went off, and after I saw the alarm, I was like, "Hey, I got to go." And I told my co-workers and I told my father, "Hey, I got to go. Something's going on with Liz." I'm reassured by part of this. He's asked to go back to the day and what do you remember? And he tells us what he remembers, and it's from his point of view. And it starts at the time that something was up, that he knew something was up, that he got this alarm to say that something had happened at the house. And deceptive people who have guilty knowledge, when they're asked what happened, often will expand the story, start ages before the actual events of what happened, to build up an alibi, to paint pictures, to make you feel like they're really guilty, or to explain why certain things happen in certain ways, to tell you how normal everything was. But Sergio doesn't do any of that. He takes us straight to when things stopped being normal, straight to when things happened there. I'm really reassured by that. Things I do note, though, getting a trigger on your phone. Liz was shot 3 times on the driveway. The word trigger is a very unusual word. It's a strong word to use, given what happened. But overall, this answer is reassuring. He does jump back in time a bit to say that they had talked about security previously. Again, it's in this Sergio speak where the thoughts are maybe not verbalized fully and some of them start and stop or so on. But he does say they had just kind of talked about it. And I'm guessing that means security. So I don't know if they were worried about what had happened. One of the striking features of this is the amount of security footage there is of someone on the driveway. Maybe it's that type of neighborhood where you do have a lot of security and you are worried about security. But frankly, I'm reassured by this by this answer. It's from Sergio. In fact, it's one of the most reassuring ones we have seen so far. We know that Liz was setting up a garage sale on the drive of their house on the day that she was murdered. And we're going to talk about that next. But first, it's time to take just a little bit of a break, because it's hard work analyzing someone's words. What you can do in return, you can subscribe to the channel so you get more like this, and you find out more about how to look at the words that people use in stories like this, the mystery of what happened to Liz Barraza. If you want to spread the word on this video, if you hit the like button, that would be gratefully received. Thank you very much. And as I've said before, if you've got anything to say, drop it into the comments. And if you're watching live and I see your comment, then we can start talking about those towards the end of the video. If you are watching this on replay, then yeah, I will read every comment that comes in on this video. The first video got a lot of very, very interesting comments. So I'm looking forward to what you have to say on this one. So Sergio's asked, tell us about the garage sale. There's been a lot of focus on that. Who knew about the garage sale? And Sergio's reply is, the only people that I know knew about the garage sale was some of her co-workers, myself and her parents, and I think my mom. Those were the only people that knew about it, you know? And then whatever, we placed signs the night before. We placed 2 signs, one at the entrance of our neighborhood and one just down the road at Hubsmith and Kirkendall. And those were the only signs we put up. And like I said, they were the only people that knew about it. I was going over this last night with someone and they wanted to know why he was so specific about where the signs were put. You know, it doesn't really add anything to the whole answer to the question, who knew about the garage sale. But in some of the other answers in this interview, when Sergio is talking about journeys that he's taken and so on, he is very specific about roads he's been on and so on. I think it's how his brain is wired. It is quite a male trait to talk about road names and intersections and so on. So I think that might be why he does that. But for me, that is not the most interesting part of this answer. And that, for me, is the order in which he speaks about the people who knew about the garage sale. He starts with her co-workers, then he says himself, then parents, her parents, and his mum. Co-workers, I thought, was a very strange group to name first. I would have expected him potentially to start closer. Me, her family, my mom, and her co-workers, and work outwards like that. But for some reason, when he's asked who knew about the garage sale, the co-workers comes first. And now I'm going to jump outside the words a little because co-workers jumped out at me for some reason and I couldn't quite work out what it was. And then I remembered that when I was researching this story originally, I think that that Liz was supposed to be at work the day of the garage sale, but had called in sick so that she could do the garage sale. So I'm interested in how that squares with her co-workers knowing. I don't know the culture at the company Liz worked with, but certainly many companies I'd worked for, if you'd pulled a sick day to do a garage sale, your co-workers would be the last people that you told about it. You would not be telling your co-workers about this. Also, again, we have this slight Mary Poppins image of Liz Barraza that's perpetrated by people around her, but that's not really a very nice thing to do, is it? It's not a very honorable, ethical, moral thing to do, to phone in sick at work, have other people cover for you, take money, I guess, for not turning up at work if you're getting sick pay, to earn money so that you can go on holiday and potentially pee off your co-workers who have to work extra hard to cover you because you couldn't be bothered coming into work that day. So I'm not entirely sure that's a motive for murder. If that's where you think I'm going, I don't think that is a motive to murder, but I think it's something else that maybe says that Liz and Sergio aren't the nice people that Sergio would like to portray all the time. This is a tough one. Sergio's asked, what was it like for you to watch your wife's murder? And he says, it was insanely hard to see that happen. I've only seen it once and I really don't want to watch it more than that. The only reason I was looking at it is to see if I can identify the person, but it's very hard to see that, to see her so scared, so afraid. I wish you could have been there holding her to keep her safe. It's very hard to see her like that. I never imagined something like this, you know? It's just so hard, you know? Now, this is mostly straightforward and direct. There's nothing that's needless words put in there to persuade us of anything. There's nothing in there that's trying to convince us of how he felt. It's just very straightforward, direct. And if you actually watch the video, and like I say, the link is in the description, you'll see the emotion there from him. The only potentially needless thing in there is him telling us the reason he was watching it, but that could just be someone going, I couldn't bring myself to watch that. A video of my partner, my wife being shot 3 or 4 times. I would not be watching that. actually he had good reason to watch it. So maybe that's why he said that. But then this came from someone we were analyzing this with last night. A lot of work goes into analyzing these videos, by the way. So they mentioned the bit at the end of it. I never imagined something like this, you know? Now, is this just Sergio speak? Is this Sergio leaving the thought unfinished? You know, I never imagined something like this. Does he mean I never imagined the day would come when I would have to watch a video of my wife being shot to death? Now, that's possible. And I'm going to give Sergio personally the benefit of the doubt. And I'm going to say I think that's what was going on. But the other view that was put to me is that this is like when you order something or you think about something and it happens and then you never imagined it would be like that. If I ordered a Chinese meal and it came double the size that I thought it would come and turned into a proper banquet, I never imagined we get this much food. When you go to maybe a holiday resort and you think it's going to be quite basic and it's very, very, very impressive, you'd say, I'd never imagined we'd get all this here. Is that what's going on there? Because that's one of the charges that's put to those words by someone that's looked at them. Okay, big question now. And the interviewer, to be fair, puts the big and hard questions direct to Sergio in this interview. There is no backing off, there's no soft soaping, and I respect her a lot for that. He's asked, there's been a lot of online speculation. You remarried within 2 years of the murder. People wonder, did you have anything to do with Lizzie's death? Sergio says, I did not. I know that I'm the prime suspect in most people's eyes. I know that people want to immediately say it was the husband who did it. I understand that. But it's just, you know, you had to know Liz and you had to see us, you know. I still love her to this day. I celebrate her. I think of her and pray for her every night that we'll get justice for that. Somebody will be put away for this because she just didn't deserve this, you know. So I understand why somebody would point the finger at me, but it's just you have to know us, you know. It's not a very fluid answer. And there's no direct denial. He's asked, did you have anything to do with Lizzie's death? And he doesn't say the words we would like to hear. No, I did not have anything to do with Lizzie's death. He doesn't say no at all. It's a yes or no question. Did you have anything to do with Lizzie's death? And he says, I did not. He doesn't say what he did not do. He wants us to assume it's to do with Lizzie's death, but it's not the strongest possible denial that he could have given to that. There is no. And then the reasoning after it, it's off whack. People kill people they love every single day. In fact, I don't know the stats on it, but I think that killing someone you love would be very, very high up there. That, you know, people tend to be in relationships with the people that they murder in life rather than these mysteries that come up in true crime. The more mundane truth is that people kill people they love every single day. Reassuring things here. It is reassuring that he wants justice, but once again, he wants somebody put away for this. Just somebody, not the person, not the killer of his wife. Every time he talks about justice, it's somebody or anybody, or they haven't caught nobody yet. The interviewer says, your mother-in-law told us that maybe someone was jealous of your life. Do you think that could have been a motive? Sergio says, it's possible somebody could have been jealous. They never made themselves known. If that was the case, we both lived happy and quiet lives together. Just kind of did our nerdy thing and just kind of went from there. You know, it wasn't, we never had arguments or had, I don't feel arguments with other people. They were small, like bickering with the club stuff, but never like, I don't feel like I would say jealousy or anything like that. You know, or her going to meet some random people, or the same with me. It was just, we lived to be with one another, you know, that was our lives and we were happy. Curious wording. It's almost like he's talking about this one person he knows. And again, he does this postcard perfect life quotes, doing their nerdy thing, lived happy, quiet lives. But bickering with the club stuff is in there. And he goes to arguments twice, arguments, I don't feel arguments, and then he talks about bickering. So this is the second time that he's talked about this perfect life that they have where they get on brilliantly with everyone and, we're really happy keeping themselves to themselves and being nerds. That arguments have been mentioned by him. So again, strengthening my opinion that there were arguments going on in their life that he's not mentioning here, that he's not talking about. And this is the bickering with the club stuff. And where does the line about her going to meet random people come from? It's completely out of the blue. It's not asked for. The question was about jealousy. And he doesn't even really answer that. He's asked, do you think jealousy could have been a motive? And he says, it's possible someone could have been jealous. Not it's possible someone could have been jealous enough to kill Liz. Or even, no, do people kill people for jealousy? Or, he doesn't deal with that whatsoever. He talks about the perfect life they have, but he doesn't say in his words that it was perfect. Actually, he talks about bickering and he talks about Liz not meeting random people and him doing the same. And what is random people? What is meeting random people? Usually I'd think about sex or relationships, but the way that he's been describing things and talking about co-workers and clubs and stuff like that, I'm not entirely sure what he means by random people. My mind is open, but I got to say, introducing random people, that's a weird one. That's a very, very weird one. And again, I think much more going on in this case than we thought. I'd also say if you're having an affair, so if him or Liz was having an affair and seeing the same person multiple times, I don't think that was classified as meeting random people. Meeting random people is maybe doing, going to a bar twice a week or something and going home with a different person afterwards, or dating apps, I guess, and things like that as well. That's potentially meeting random people. But why? Why did he bring in that meeting random people? No idea. No idea. In the next question, have you ever thought about who would be jealous of your life that you had with Liz? Sergio says, no. I couldn't tell you who, I have no idea why somebody would or who it would be. I can see maybe why, because we did have a happy life and we enjoyed so much together. We vacationed, we did a lot together. I would be jealous if I saw that too. So I haven't connected the dots to see if people would do that. And anytime I can't think of stuff like that, I've given it to the detectives. Any like little grain that I've given to them to try and think of something that could open this up so we can find out what happened or why it happened. I don't know if I'll ever know why, but at least they can get the person who did this, and so Liz can get justice. It's just crazy that it's been 4 years and there's still nothing, it seems like. Now, for the first time, justice for the person that killed Liz. At least they can get the person who did this, and so Liz can get justice. Finally, that is there. It's not just he wants someone to go to jail for this. Someone. He's brought up crazy. It's crazy that this has been going on for 4 years. Previously, he said it was insane that it had gone on for 4 years, and it was insane that the killer was still free after 4 years. So, yeah, definitely a sign that he's had quite a roller coaster time of it. I know he says, I haven't connected the dots. Not I can't connect the dots. So that suggests that the dots could be connected if he tried. And just an interesting way of wording it there. And again, I'm not sure he entirely directly answers the question. Have you ever thought about who would be jealous of your life that you had with Liz? And he kind of says, no, I couldn't tell you, but he doesn't say whether he thought about it or, yeah, I'm not entirely convinced by this answer to the question. And again, it does seem like he's not really dealt with a lot of the questions that he's asked head on. He's sort of moved their relevance slightly away, especially when he's asked about who it would be, who would be jealous enough, who could have done this. He moves into the whys and the wherefores. So that's all the words I want to look at in this interview. So it's conclusion time. So if you've got any comments or conclusions yourself, then why not put them in the comments down below, and we'll have a look at them as we go. So share whatever it is you've got to say there. What am I thinking? Having looked at, I've watched the entire interview. I spent hours looking through the words and looking at what was going. So So have I changed my point of view since last time when I said he's nothing to do with Sergio and I don't think he's got a clue what happened? Yeah, I have changed. I remain saying I don't think Sergio killed his wife, and I don't think he was instrumental in the killing of his wife. But I'm less certain of that last point than I was after watching some videos about a year ago. I do and continue to think he knows who killed his wife, or he has an extremely strong suspicion who killed his wife and why. The reasons behind it, not the logic behind it, not why it became murder, but I think he does understand that. I think he thinks it was a woman because he doesn't gender the person ever. My question is, why would you keep that a secret? Now, I thought the first time that I analyzed Sergio, I thought maybe that was just niceness. It's nice not to, if you don't know for sure someone's a murderer who murdered your wife, it's probably nice not to just go out there and say, this person is the murderer. But now, I'm not so sure. Is it because what would come out if he told the story, if he threw the allegations and accusations, wouldn't be nice? Would they sully the memory of Liz? Would they not be so nice for the relationship of Sergio and Liz? Would they show that in a different light? Is that where the meeting random people comes in? Could be. I certainly don't think everything was as blissful as Sergio tries to paint the relationship at all. There were arguments with other people around them. These arguments, I've got the feeling they centered more around Liz rather than Sergio, but the meeting random people line, wow. Where did that come from? Why was that blurted out after 4 years? I don't know. In short, I think Sergio knows who killed his wife, and he knows the reason. Like what this person had against Liz. The bit he doesn't know is why it became murder. And what is really important to Sergio is image management. Perception of him and perception of Liz is really, really important to him. But it's not doing him any favors because it makes him look deceptive. And you can't hide stuff like this. You can't hide stuff like this and do half-hour interviews with TV. It will come out in your words. It will always come out in your words. So there you go. Sergio Barraza, analyzed. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, you can find me on social media. Go to connect.neveratruerword.com and we can have conversations there till your heart's content. If you want to read about how to analyze people's words and learn some of the techniques that we use to do that, posts.neveratruerword.com is the place to go to. If you want to really upskill yourself, books.neveratruerword will give you the access to buy a couple of books that will really put you head and shoulders above others when it comes to looking at what people are truthfully saying and what it is that they're trying to hide from you. And if you like yourself a podcast, there's one on O.J. Simpson. Did you know he was interviewed by the police for 30 minutes? Do you know what he said in that interview? And do you know what it reveals about what happened the night that Nicole's ex-wife was murdered? Podcast.neveratruerword.com and binge listen O.J. Simpson in his words. And there's also loads of videos on this YouTube channel for you to watch as well. So thank you very much, and we'll see you again and soon on Never a Truer Word.